Yeah, it looks like these days things are lighter. It's easier to stay with the contraction when it appears. And so maybe because of that, there is more curiosity toward this separation between inside and outside, and the body and the boundary between the body and the outside. And because it feels like the body is there is danger outside for the body, so the body needs to be careful in the way it interacts with the outside world, and so it feels always feels a little bit uh, menaced and endangered, but by what's outside, it needs to be very careful and pay attention and I don't know, I'm walking down the streets and there are cars and there is traffic, and this body feels always under some threat from the outside world, or there is an
Mm.
illness, there is. So this boundary, I think this very rigid distinction between what's here and what's there, I think it's part of this feeling threatened because the body it feels like it's very precious and there is only one and it can't be like damaged, and if it gets hurt then maybe it can't recover, so there's all this little bit of anxiety regarding the body and its health.
Yeah. But do you get that this is brain training that's happened? Like that, so you're literally behaving as if you've got to watch out for saber-toothed tigers jumping out from behind a rock and eating you.
Mm.
This is a very, I can put it, primitive part of the brain where we it operates automatically,
Mm-mm.
and it's all about survival. It's all about looking after you. So of course it takes a stance that there is danger everywhere. But you know from life experience that there's not danger everywhere. Some things are dangerous, but most things are not.
Yeah, but it always looks like this body is so fragile. It could get like sick very easily,
Yeah.
and it will die. It will get old. It will. Uh, and so there
So
are
do you
lots
get
of
that?
stories regarding this frail body appearing.
Yeah, sure. So do you get that being anxious all the time is going to make you more likely to get sick, more likely to get run over by a bus,
Yeah, and
more
this
likely
and
to
this
age
causes more
quickly? Yeah,
anxiety. Yeah, it's like a loop
yeah,
because the
yeah.
the
So it
anxiety
becomes a
makes the body
yeah, it's a
apparently more
circular
more
thing.
afraid
Yeah,
too. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So how come you haven't learned that there's not danger everywhere? I mean, it might be a metaphorical saber-toothed tiger that's going to eat you, but you're still behaving as if the body is in
Uh, I think it might be also connected with the fact that this body is very important as a tool, as an instrument, in order to, the same old story, be enough in the world. So if this
danger.
body gets weaker or is sick or falls ill, or if this body gets damaged, then it's not enough anymore, and so it can't be used anymore
Mm,
to be enough in the world to get accepted and to get validated and to get loved.
mm.
It's
So
this body is central in this
yeah.
situation.
So why don't you wear armor all the time? Why don't you put a crack hat on when you go outside and have a leather jacket with protection in it and padding and take a shield with you?
Ah, that would be perceived as weakness too, because it's like this body needs to be self-sufficient in order to be
Yeah,
enough. All these stories, I know these stories are like
yeah, yeah,
crazy,
yeah. But they're real.
but,
Mm.
but there is this anxiety related to the fact that without this body, this can't be enough anymore for the world to be loved, to be accepted by the world. So this body needs to be perfect and enough and strong and accepted in order for this to be accepted. So this body feels like it's very, very central in the story of this individual and needs to be taken care of. And the decay needs to be slowed down as much as possible. So it needs to eat very healthy food and it needs to be exercised as much as possible and needs to be everything that
Yeah.
like decay needs to be avoided. There's this story going on.
So do you think it's possible for this body to never get sick, never get injured, never get old?
It's just to slow down the inevitable process of, but even in slowing down, there is struggle, there is resistance, there is, yeah, and there is also the anxiety because it's inevitable. It's you can all only slow it down somehow maybe, but
Mm. You could be a billionaire, zillionaire, trillionaire if you
it's
work that
very
one out. Yeah.
it's not guaranteed.
No. And I'll guarantee you know ways of doing that that you don't do,
Mm.
like how you eat, the amount of exercise you get.
Even in that, I see that there is no one choosing that.
Hmm.
That is just it's just happening. But
Yeah. So let's say on one hand, what you've just told me about the body, that's also just happening. But on the other hand, that's where the suffering starts, isn't it?
um, there is the fear that this body, it's just what it is, and it can't be really controlled, and it doesn't really belong to anyone. But it's like these stories cause a contraction because as I said, this other story says that without this body, you can't be accepted.
So, all right, then tell me why those stories are more upfront than, say, stories about how fucking wonderful that body is. Isn't it amazing that you can
I mean,
stand
yeah.
upright and walk?
Sometimes there is that story too, but it's smaller than the other stories. It's
Yeah, yeah.
less
So why does one story get more weight than the other?
because there is this perception of this inside and outside and all these dangers that are outside, and so it's more uh, it's more an animal instinct, maybe something like that. That this body
Mm,
feels more endangered than elated by the fact that it's beautiful This
Mm,
body is
mm.
beautiful. There is so much going on here, so much stuff
Yeah,
going on. It's unbelievable how it works and how it keeps functioning by itself. Yeah, there is that story
right.
too. And there is wonder and curiosity and amazement toward that.
Yeah. So when I look back at my day, which is kind of drawing a bit to a close, it's the other end of the day for me. But so I've been up all day. I've been out all day. I went out with my wife. Had lunch with friends, and I drove in a car. By golly, did you see those other cars going past me? They weren't even a meter away, and they were going past me at a fantastic pace. Between us, if we had a hit, we'd have hit each other at about 120 kilometers an hour, even in the 60 zone. Yeah. I did not feel danger once in the whole day. What's the difference between you and me in that way?
I have had the same thoughts many times. Like when I'm driving, I see this like 2 tons bullet spinning
And we
just
don't feel danger, do we?
to me all the time. And I think, how are people like getting into these like tin boxes?
Yeah. And we've got
And
no idea who's in the other one. We
it's
know
crazy.
we're
Yeah, we
okay,
don't pay
but
attention
the
to it because
but it could be a
it's not
madman in the other
us.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah. We don't pay attention to it. Yeah. Yeah. So attention to this body.
yeah, we also much of the time we don't pay attention. This doesn't pay attention to, I don't know, I could get cancer tomorrow, or I could fall sick tomorrow, or I could like get run down by a car in an hour. This much of the time I don't pay attention to that. But it still feels like it this body needs to be taken care of very carefully because there is some control that can be had, and what it can be avoided needs to be avoided. It still feels endangered and feels uh, it's not all the time. It's just when there
Okay. So what?
are
Tell me
circumstances,
what's the difference
like
between when
when
it's
there
not
are body
there,
sensations
when
of
it is there.
pain, when there are bodily sensations of pain, these stories appear, and or when
Ah.
there are, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, when there is like
Ah.
direct experience of the body feeling pain, or feeling under some kind of
Yeah.
they,
So would it be accurate to say that if you felt pain or whatever version of that is you're talking about, that triggers these
yeah,
feelings of
it's these
danger?
uncomfortable
Yeah.
sensations, yeah, that trigger these stories, yeah.
Right. So do you have in your mind that there's any way possible that you not have these triggers?
Nah, uh, they it always happened like this when like the body gets sick, even just like getting a simple cold during the winter. There is immediately the story of, yeah, how much will this go on, for how long this will go on, and is my
Yeah, so what?
immunitary system too weak? Is
Yeah,
this a
well, of
signal
course those stories turn up. They turn up for everybody. So what?
of this? Yeah, so the contraction immediately starts. Yeah, it needs to be
So,
listened. Like,
so what I'm asking you is, what's your relationship to those stories that has the effect that you described? You can
yeah,
see it, can't you? You can see it quite clearly.
that this body is not enough to be loved or to support this
So when
story.
those stories turn up, another story about the body not being enough turns up.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
you
yeah.
have stories on top of stories.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the body feels endangered, feels threatened, and so, but the body, it's an instrument. It's in this story is central. It's a tool that is instrumental for this to be loved. So the body needs to be enough to support this struggle for this to be
Mm.
loved, for this to be enough, for this to be enough, basically. So this body needs to be always functioning
Yeah.
enough.
What I suggest that you look at the concept of enough.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But then I want you to ponder this. If if every day when I go for a walk with a dog, I walk past a certain tree, and I've never once told it I love it. Do you think it misses out on being told that it's love?
No, no,
I mean,
yeah, yeah.
without doubt, without doubt, it's worth love, isn't it?
Mm.
But every time I go past and don't tell it I love it, do you think it thinks, oh God, he's rejected me again?
Yeah, when there are no stories about the pain or about illness or about it's just the pain, and when there are no stories around it, it's just a sensation, like
Yeah.
not different from other
Okay,
sensations.
this is a really big one. This is a really, really big one. You're never going to get to a place where there's no stories. It's not about having stories or not having stories. And nobody's ever going to guarantee that your stories are going to be coherent or valid or right or accurate. Stories are going to turn up and they play a whole lot of different parts in our life, but they're going to be there all the time. So don't you think it's important that we establish a relationship with these stories where
Mm,
we don't get into suffering?
mm. It's maybe it's that the stories about the body, unlike other stories about the past, the future, and the me and
Yeah,
stuff, stories about the body, they feel they have a stronger grip because it's
yeah.
one to
So
one, immediate. It's a story
could
to
I,
body.
if I said to you that stronger grip is identification,
Yeah,
that
it's identification with
you
the
take
body.
it personally.
Yeah, 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 yeah. There's identification with the body.
Yeah. So you don't take the tree personally, but you do take the body personally.
Mm. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, and I don't know how to look at this because it feels so close. The body, it feels so here and not there. It feels like this everything, this consciousness
Mm.
has an exclusive relationship with this body and not other bodies.
Ah, okay, yeah.
Because
Well, that's pretty common, isn't it? Yeah.
the pain appears in, it's not the pain of other bodies. The pain of other
Mm.
bodies appears here maybe as a contraction, as a contraction, as
Yeah, yeah.
other stories and a contraction, the pain of other bodies. Uh, yeah, and so what? Yeah.
Okay. Look, I got to let the cat in, but I can still hear you though. If you can keep talking, no worries.
Yeah, yeah.
Jojo, come on. Good girl.
Yeah, yeah. So what? So what? It's still a description. It's still a story. It's still concepts and words and labels and thoughts around the body, but it's never the body. They never touch the body. Yeah, and it's also the body. It's still a concept. It's still a story. It's just sensations and perceptions, and they get assembled and a label gets slapped on this, and it's called a body. It's just a cloud of
Mm,
perceptions with stories around.
yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
We
Hmm.
we we don't want to establish bypassing. We don't want to
But
come up with anything that is a narrative of the mind and use that as a way of feeling better.
there is fear of losing this body too, because for example, when I'm saying this, when I'm saying that it's just a story and the body, it's just a cloud of stuff. Yeah, but this is my body. I don't. It feels. You're right. It feels there is identification. It feels mine,
Mm,
but also mine. Where is this me?
mm.
Yeah, it all comes
So
down
so
to
this is a
contraction.
this is a tricky one and a bit interesting and but very subtle, right? Everything that you everything that excites any of your five physical senses,
Mm-mm.
that is anything that you experience, it's your experience.
Mm.
So if you look at the wall in front of you,
Mm.
it becomes your experience through looking at it.
Mm-mm.
So how is it separate? It's connected by seeing.
Yeah, it's this contraction that makes it my body in the story.
Yeah,
But it's not different than
yeah.
staring at the wall or staring at something else.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah,
But
it's
we don't want to we don't want to deny conditioning that we've had that
it's
might have caused us to get a hyperactive amygdala. If we're on high alert all the time, there's going to be a reason behind that, and that's our training.
no, it's here, I can feel it. It Yeah, it's the connection in the story between this me and this body is these sensations that appear here. It's because this fear of losing this body, that this body doesn't really belong to this me, and there is a yeah, but it's just here. Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, no, that's interesting. That's interesting. That's interesting because yeah. It's not in the story, this body is mine. It's that these feelings here are mistaken or believed to be the proof that this body belongs to this me. that
Yeah,
there
yeah,
can be the proof that this body is
yeah.
belongs to.
So when
Yeah.
you say, I get what you're saying exactly right. It appears to be proof that, but another way to put it is to say it validates the idea that it's you that's in danger.
Mm-mm.
And so we have a loop that goes where the thoughts validate the feelings and the feelings validate the thoughts. And and when that's all operating, the illusion is very strong. We are actually experiencing the illusion.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's the feeling that this body is in danger and that this is my body and I can't lose this body. I can't because this body, I need this body in order to be enough. So yeah, yeah, it's that connection, that
Mm.
chain of thoughts, that chain of
Yeah. And
stories.
again comes up that word enough.
Yeah, yeah, it all comes down to that.
Mm.
Even when I don't see it, at first I wasn't seeing this, but yeah, it always comes down to this. Because this body needs to even more than to survive, that the me wants to survive, and so it needs the body. It wants to be enough. It doesn't want to survive through the body. It just wants to be enough,
But
which is
it doesn't know what enough is. How does the
yeah,
body know what enough is?
yeah, yeah. It's yeah, there are a bunch of stories about society and expectations, the society's
Yeah.
expectation. And also in this
And
society,
enough is impossible.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, mm, enough. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's say you had a perfect body, you work out all the time and you're able to do lots of
Enough
push-ups
for
and
everyone
lift
is
heavy
important.
weights and do all that. And your body is really perfect.
Yeah,
Isn't that body going to get old and decrepit?
yeah, yeah,
There's
absolutely.
no way around that.
And it's not even possible to be enough for everybody. Like there will
No,
always be
never.
judgment, and there will always be
Mm,
self-judgment, judgment, and different perspectives. And
yeah. So have you got 10 fingers and 10 toes? All of your senses work?
yeah.
That sounds like enough.
Mm. Mhm.
How much, David, would you say, how much of your time would you say you live in this state of fear for the body?
Mm.
Is that half your waking hours or less or more?
There is this constant subtle struggle to keep this body functioning very well. So every time I eat, every time I wake up and I need to, I don't, every time maybe I haven't exercised for a few days and the stories appears and say, no, you need to exercise constantly or this body will get sick. And every time I get an injury, a small injury, or I am sick, there is worrying. And yeah, so maybe I worry about it every day. Uh, and yeah, but yeah, uh, I see the connections and this mechanism. It's clear now. Yeah.
Mm.
It's
So
because there is,
we can know that getting sufficient exercise and eating correctly, etc., that these things will have an effect on our health.
mm,
But we can know that and then forget it, or rather
mm,
push it into the background where it's not running everything we do or think. It just happens.
Yeah.
Or we can be obsessed about it and we can live always with that in the front of our mind. That sounds like a version of suffering to me.
Yeah, it comes from the fact that this body is believed to belong to this me
Hmm.
because of those feelings. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you're going to
Mm-mm-mm.
be in trouble when it gets old and starts breaking down, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, potentially, yeah. The even yeah, more and more stories. Even now, I'm getting slowly getting older and older, and the body is not strong as it was a few years ago, and it takes longer to recover. And yeah, 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 yeah. But yeah, mm. Yeah, it needs to be looked into these feelings. That seems to be the proof that this body is mine.
Hmm.
Yeah, to look into those.
Well, yeah, so it's an interesting one. So when we say this body is mine, are we actually saying I own it? It belongs to me?
It means I control it, I use it, I control it.
So who's this I you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah, no, no, that is just a thought. It's just a story.
Hmm.
Yeah. No, it's that I have looked so much into this story of the me that is I feel that is very clear. It's the physical part that needs to be looked more.
Hmm.
It's the physical connection, apparent connection.
And
Otherwise,
what form?
only just bypassing and escaping.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what form would that connection take? What form could it take?
When this body feel is seen as fattened, there is like the usual contraction here and the usual contraction here. Yeah, it's always
So wait a minute. Tell me what what is displayed about the connection in that? How does that
the
relate to? We got some. Think of it. Attachment. Think of connection. Think of think of something. How is it? Is it tied between two bits tied together with a bit of rope, or have we got threads or strings, or are we bolted together? What is your connection to those things?
no, they just appear here. There is this sensation of contraction here, and yeah, there is a story immediately that says
Oh, okay. So I'm not hearing anything about connection. So we've got two
danger.
separate things here. We've got the sensations and
There is
we've
no,
got the stories.
there is no real connection between the story and these sensations of
Right.
contraction.
What there is, the connection that we believe is there is an illusion.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, it's
that
just
it's that ownership thing.
yeah, it's a story. Mm. Yeah, it feels sorry this
Yeah.
because
So what if I said this to you? Where we're looking to get is where whatever turns up in our world, in our physical world, or in our mind, or in our feelings, whatever turns up, by the time we become aware of it, it's already there.
Mm. Yeah.
And so there is no point at any time, there is zero point in saying, I don't want it to be there. That's insanity, isn't it?
Mm.
How can you change what's already happened?
Yeah, yeah, that's doesn't
Yeah.
make any.
So what we're looking for is not not having not spiraling off into a suffering with our interpretation of what's turned up. So we need to see what's turned up as clearly as we can. Just what is it? What not anything about it, not stories about it, not what it means, but what is it? What actually is it?
Mm.
And so when we say you have a fear for this body, what's actually there underneath the story about I have a fear for this body? What exists is a story. What exists is the body. What exists are sensations that you experience. But none of that adds up to danger, does it?
No, no, there is just it's like yeah, these sensations and the story. It's like there is a knot. They are very tightly coupled. But if you look into them,
Mm. It just looks like they're joined up, but they're not.
there is an idea that they are very close.
Mm.
Yeah, no, it's the,
And they probably are close, but they're not actually joined up. Even if they're
Mhm.
touching each other, they're not joined up. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just an idea that says that they are very close.
Yeah.
The,
So what I'm wanting to convey to you is not that any of that should not happen. If it happens, it happens. There it is. What I'm wanting to convey is that there is a possible relationship to whatever turns up that says it just is what it is.
mm,
And sometimes that is going to cause physical pain, but it still just is what it is. I hit myself on the thumb with the hammer when I was hammering a nail. That was painful. It's still painful. I can still feel the throbbing of my thumb where I hit it with the hammer. But that's just what turned up. Right? What didn't turn up is stories about what an idiot I am for doing it.
mm.
But if they turn up as a story, not something I've got to react to.
Uh,
So what I'm saying is whether a story turns up or whether something physical happens, it's no different. It is just what it is. It is just there. Now the tricky thing is what it actually is beyond our ability to discern. We can only interpret what it is. That's the nature of being human. We can just interpret it. So we don't even know if it actually is. So what we're responding to is our interpretation, because somebody else will interpret it differently and respond to that.
what you're telling me makes perfect sense. I can see it, and I feel that this is already loosening a little bit. And there is maybe the last thing I wanna talk about quickly is that the more I look into this, even now, the more this is seen for what it is. There is this a little bit maybe of fear of losing the body, of abandoning it,
Ah, not taking care of it.
abandoning, and also the me can't use the body anymore. If it loses it, it can't use it anymore to be enough, to be loved and accepted, and so on.
Mm,
So there is fear, and also because there is maybe also there is love for this body. There is also because yeah, there's also like this takes care of this body.
mm. But you'll do
And
that anyway. You'll
doesn't
do
want
that
to lose,
because you know.
doesn't want
Yeah.
to give up, to give it up.
Mm.
But yeah, that too is
There's a
something
lot
that
to settle down and sort out, isn't there?
mm. Yeah, yeah.
Mm. So what about some homework? What if we said give you the job of seeing if you can twist your perception of whatever turns up into a place where you recognize that it just is what turned up, just is what it is. And even that you don't actually know. You only know your experience of it. But so whatever turns up, I want the question to jump into your mind that says, what is this? And I want the answer to be something that's just turned up. It just is what it is. I don't even
Mm.
know what it is, but it is what it is. And it was a story. And it was a somebody honking their horn at me. It was anything that happens. It just turns up.
Yeah, I know. I need to do this. I know this is what is already happening, and yeah, it's that. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Maybe I just need to shut up a little bit
You don't need to do anything or
and
not do
just
anything. Uh,
shut up, feel it.
no, I don't want you to shut up. It's good stuff that you can talk this out and you get to see it clearer when that happens. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. No, no, absolutely. Even today, I am grateful because yeah, it's clear now. Yeah, yeah, I can see a couple things that I was missing. Yeah, thank you, thank you, Lance.
Thank you, David. Mm. Hi, Ashton.
Hi, Vince. Let me see. Are
Good
you
to
able to
see you
hear me?
finally. Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you fine. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I've got your thing open on my computer and I haven't responded. It's so hard to do it in words. So restrictive and limiting to do it in words. Yeah. But I'll
Yeah.
get to it. Mm. But guiding is great. Guiding is really, really good for you seeing things in yourself, as well as helping other people to see things. So there's good value in that. And it's interesting. I think back to when I first woke up and now, and the difference is really big. And yet, there it is. But I can imagine that your enthusiasm for some things will be pretty big at the moment. And you want to fix the whole world. That one is another one that comes up. Yeah, yeah,
Not quite the whole world yet.
yeah. But I suggest, like, there's a rule that I apply. Well, I call it a rule. It's not really a rule. Well, it is a rule, but I hold it lightly anyway. But one thing I came to through bitter experience was you don't push help on anybody. You only help those who ask for it. And there'll be some
Right. Yep.
in between stuff, some inadvertent stuff. But essentially, that you learn, and it's a continuing road for you, that's for sure. But as you learn to live in the world without suffering, you'll affect the people around you as well. So, it's not direct, it's not so obvious, and they don't even know they're being affected, but they will be. So, that's also a good one. So being a role model is much more valuable than anything you can say.
Right. Yep.
But there's,
Yesterday I joined this meeting here on with Byron Katie, and she said one thing at one point. She said, "Live as a secret," and that I don't know why, but live as a secret. Yeah, there is no need like to to like impose these to to other people if they don't ask for it.
mm, yeah.
I think, yeah.
And I would like to modify, to reframe live as a seeker
No, 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 as a secret. Sorry, maybe my
as
pronunciation.
a
As a
as a
secret.
secret. Oh yes, secret.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yeah, for
live
sure.
as a secret.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
sorry.
So the big thing here is that inwardly lots of change happens. Outwardly
Yeah,
it doesn't. To others it's not so obvious. So yeah. Yeah, so
Right. Yeah.
don't talk about this with people that aren't interested in it.
yeah,
They're
that's
not
the
going to
secret.
get it.
Yep.
So there are files at LU. So did you join the LU Guide Central group?
Yeah, I did. I just so like I've only got Facebook on the like I don't have it as an app or anything. I've just got it like on the web browser and
Yeah.
I couldn't find the files tab for it.
Oh, okay. I'll have to go and look and see if it's still there in the same place it was there. Yeah. And when you first go into that group, it's up the top on the right by memory. I'll have a quick look now, actually. Let's see, where is it? The Facebook
And I had
Guide
started to
Central.
do like I was looking at the archives of like some other people you guided that, I'd also seen through too and I had only just started on like reading through one and I haven't even gotten all the way through, but it's
Yeah,
interesting because
there's a lot there. Yeah, yeah.
but it's so interesting because like you could be like pointing to certain things and then like the conversation just takes what I would perceive as just like a completely unexpected turn and it's like I would have almost
Uh,
no idea how to respond to certain things. It's like it's
yeah,
like
yeah. I get
laughable
that. Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah. Okay, so look, I'm on the LU Guide Central uh, group, and up the top you've got about discussion. Discussion's what it opens up to, and then right of that is featured members, events, media, and files. So I'm imagining that menu was not on your screen because you needed to scroll left or something. But in that files,
Yeah.
there's a shitload of PDFs and documents. Yeah. Yeah. But having said that, one of the things that from my experience is that you can use those things, but there's no push to do it that way, you know. So what I say to you is,
Right.
an awakened person, you can see when somebody else is lost in concept. And really, it's
Right.
your
Yeah.
job is to help them to discover the difference between what is conceptual and what is actual, and just by pointing things out to them. But there's a good technique that worth looking at, though it's difficult to do sometimes, and that is you don't tell anybody anything. You ask them questions that are designed to help them discover it themselves.
Right.
So it can seem like we're just having a conversation, but in actual fact, what we're doing is pointing at certain things that are not so obvious.
Right.
Yeah. Don't worry about that. But
Yeah.
as you,
Like I guess.
it's a good idea to read the archives. There's a lot in there. I mean, there's bloody 15 years of people waking up, and the ones in the archives are all the successful ones as well. So the ones that don't finish and get in there, they never get in there. So what you're seeing is all the people that did wake up, and what you'll see is if you read 1,000, there will be 1,000 different experiences
Right.
because
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody does it in their own way. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And I was thinking too, because like that message I had sent you, I got to thinking afterwards. I was like, part of me would wonder too if like that would kind of be too like putting someone in a box, so to speak, to where like if they were to kind of come up with like a pretend sort of experience for like a certain fictional character or something, it's like, and then if I were to say like prompt them to like, okay, like now tell me like what you're experiencing like in front of the screen or whatever, like part
yeah.
of me
As that
wonders if,
character,
well, I guess like part of me wonders if they would just almost copy and paste sort of everything that, you know, they wrote about the character and basically like weave out the true things that they would say as a response because, they might think that like there's a wrong answer or something. And then like you know what I mean? Like if they were to
yeah,
leave out what they would truly answer, so to speak, then it's like, you know, you
yeah.
don't
So you
have
think if
anything to nitpick.
you remove the personal nature of it, and
Right, yeah.
therefore they're not as their defenses are not stimulated as much.
Yeah. You're right, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I go along with that. I think that's a good one. Um, so one of the things that so one of the things I do on Substack is I put out a story every day, and it's just a one-page story with using some characters that I use regularly, and and those stories are pretty obvious that they're about point, about they're trying to kind of push over some idea of something. But because they're stories, they're less likely to get people triggered. It's not like asking them. But I follow up the story with an investigation where we go and actually look at some of the details of what's done. And then I put out a song as well. And the idea of the song is that can sneak in behind our conscious barriers a bit easier because it's a song and it's music and we have a different way of looking at or experiencing them. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well,
So, have you been to my Substack?
so all right, so before I had like gotten back to you, like just this past month or whatever to like resume our talks and stuff, um,
Hmm.
maybe like 2 weeks before that, like because I like what you're talking about, like all of the stories and like the songs, like I was receiving emails of all the stories and songs, for like years, and I just always put them in a folder, and I I never read any of them or anything for like years on end. But then like I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, before I reached back out to you, I was like, like what the hell? I'll look in my little Vince folder, and then I was reading like some of the different. For me, what appealed was like the stories, not for me personally, like not the songs. But so, so I think at some point I ended up like filtering out all the songs for the emails and just I didn't use them, but there would be like I don't know, like there was probably 5 or 6 stories. I think you say like Naomi is like one of the characters' names, but
Yeah,
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 like there was like five or so stories that I saved, and I would kind of just think about them a little bit, and then you know, and then at some point that's like when I reached back out to you because I was like I feel like
well,
I'm like
there you go.
in a better place maybe to resume it.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
like the
well, there you
stories
go.
were
And what
really good.
wasn't the timing was great, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was. And I've been off work too, so like it's been really good. It's like it's so crazy because it's like, you know, I, I I've been in between jobs. Just, it happens so randomly, but like for like at least a month now, and it's been crazy because it's like it was like the perfect time and place, I guess, to like soak everything in because I'd like when we'd message back and forth, like you know,
Yeah.
you might have like texted something back, and then I'm like midway on a bike ride, and then I'm like at a picnic table at a park, and then I just like read it, and I'm like interesting, and then you kind of look for it, and then you kind of see your findings or whatever, but it would just give me something to like, just to be in the back of my mind, I guess, like throughout the day.
Mm.
It was kind of
Yeah.
neat.
Yeah. That's a good way to do it, is to kind of just put it there and let it rock around itself, and it'll kind of sink in maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's good. Yeah. So it's excellent to imagine that that's what happened, that the because I don't get a lot of feedback, and so I didn't know about the effect that they have. Yeah.
Yeah.
But good.
Yeah, you should keep doing
Yeah.
the stories. Do
Yeah,
you
well,
act
different people
I was,
respond to different bits. Yeah.
I was curious, do you actually like make the stories yourself or like do you use the AI for that or what?
Yeah, I use AI for that. Yeah, I give it the prompt. So frequently I might give it a prompt for like a whole meeting. I give it the transcript of the meeting and ask it to isolate different themes that turn up, and then give me a story, an investigation, and a song for each of those themes. And then I'll go through and read and modify the things to make sure that nothing weird's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it does a good job. Yeah, and then when I get the lyrics out of Chat GPT, and I get that whole lot out of and when I take the song lyrics and I feed that into uh, a site called Suno.com, and it takes the lyrics and turns it into a song, and it uses whatever instruments I tell it to do. And lately, it came up with a new thing where it said, "Give me a sample of your voice, and we'll use your voice to make the singer." So I've done that as well. It's pretty
Pretty cool.
clever. Mm, mm.
That is cool.
Yeah, there's no way I could be that prolific if I was doing it all by myself.
It'd be a lot of like coming up with stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, well, I think I've just published the song number 190, song and story number 190. So there you go. Yeah. But the stories have been going longer than the songs, and I'm now onto the eighth book of 50 stories. I've just started that. I'm up to about 15 or something in that book. But so there's times 50 stories out there already. So 350
Dang.
stories altogether out there. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say like the folder I've got with all your stuff. I mean, it had like I think over like 400 or 500 different emails, and I would like um because like through Gmail or whatever, I would end up just making it to where you can filter out emails or like filter in emails, I guess, to where it like
Yeah,
only if it
yeah,
includes a certain yeah, only if it includes like a certain word or like a
oh,
certain exact
okay,
email
yeah,
or something. And so that's what I did because like I don't know, like well yeah. Like I would get emails too about like, you know, Zoom meetings and stuff and, and so I guess like I had filtered those out, but like I made sure like I specifically wanted to keep the stories, So like
yeah,
instead of just
yeah,
like say unsubscribing from it all, like I made sure I was like, all right, like I don't know if it had like
yeah,
Vincent's story in it or something, like
yeah,
it
yeah,
would
yeah.
keep
Good
that
one.
for that.
Yeah. I didn't know about that in Gmail, but I do. I made a folder that I put certain emails in, so I keep them. They don't get deleted.
Yeah.
So,
It'd be
yeah.
it'd be cool too. Like I could send you like the stories, that I saved that were like, that like I not just that like I made come through my feed, but like the ones that I actually like read and was like, you know, kind of sparked something, I guess, a little bit. It'd be I think it'd be probably good for
Cool.
you to know like which ones they were.
Yeah, yeah, it would. Yeah, yeah. I love that feedback. Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. So, as far as these meetings are concerned, I just want to say to you that really informal, as you've already gathered, I imagine. But there's no right or wrong. There's no, you can come late, go early. You don't have to say good day or goodbye. Just turn up, disappear when you've had enough, whatever. Some people leave their camera turned off, which I generally take as a signal that they don't want to be talked to. Um, but they're here to listen and look, watch, I guess, what people do. Um, so there's no right or wrong. There's no rules really. There's no restrictions. Say what you like, swear all you like, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Be really relaxed about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things that is really frequent, and that is that people get funny about talking for too long. They go, I don't want to take up everybody's time. I'm talking too much, so they stop. I don't have that as an issue for me, So I'll go for with one person as long as they keep going. I'll go. Uh, so you
Yeah.
can't run out. So sometimes some of these meetings go for 3.5 hours. Others go for less
Okay.
time than that. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So good. I'm glad you're here. Good stuff. So we're here to discuss everything and anything. So what I find is that in some groups, probably more the morning groups. I have two morning ones of a week and two evening ones, but the morning ones, anyway, some of the groups I get, say, sometimes three people or four people who are already awake turn up, and they come along not to get anything to wake up. They just come along for the company and to have a yap with somebody else that's awake. And it's really good value to be able to talk about this stuff with other people who are on the same bandwidth, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny too, because like you know, I had like a therapist or whatever for like 4 sessions, like at least a year ago now, just about. And you know, she was like Buddhist, and I mean, because like this is like a year ago, so this is like well before I was like awake or anything. But you know, because at that time I was doing like a decent amount of like noting practice, and but same thing. It's like while I was doing that whole noting practice, it's like there was this idea of like that's what life should be or something like that, like basically like you're just getting fixated or like identifying really heavily with like some sort of idea that like there's a right way to do things in
Mm,
life or whatever. And
mm,
but I think ultimately like that kind of that kind of really helped to like notice sensations as events a little bit, or
yeah,
at least like when it came to like back to talking with you, like once it was like prompted, so to speak, like it kind of like it actually hit more so. Whereas like when you're just kind of doing like some arbitrary noting practice, but you don't really have a prompt or like a knowing of actually like why you're doing it or something, like it doesn't help until like it might give you like, you know, a certain degree of skill that it's like it could be beneficial when you have like a good prompt, you know, to look, but it's like on its own it didn't even really
mm.
do anything necessarily. But yeah, I don't know. Like
But it
I
is
tried.
part of your experience, and I would say, well, for myself, I would say everything I went through seems like now it was necessary.
Right, yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
So although that
for
may
sure.
not have had a certain effect in itself, it's probably a component of where you are now.
Right, yeah. Yeah. Well, and because like during that time, you know, I don't know, it was funny because like that therapist, she was the first person I'd ever met in my entire life that like in real life, like as someone just in your actual like physical life that was at all like, you know, I
Yeah.
guess you'd say like into the same kind of things. And then like once once I was talking back with you and then saying how like, one day I was like angry or frustrated or whatever, it's like it was because of her, in the sense that like I had I had tried reaching back out to her and then she just like stiffed me and I was like, what the hell? I'm like, all right. I'm like, but I don't know, it's weird, but I don't know. I was kind of hoping, maybe like I don't know, like because I guess like I can tell like where she's at, because we would talk previously, and she'd always be convinced that like all she has to do is just live this life in like a virtuous kind of manner, and like that's all her life would amount to, kind of thing. But it's like same thing. Like, it's kind of just a story. But to your point, like what
Yeah.
you were saying about, like um I guess not like reaching out to people necessarily. I mean, it kind of makes sense because it's just like everyone's just at their own kind of pace, really. It's like
Mm.
the time kind of comes, it seems like
Yeah.
when the time comes, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like why
Yeah.
why there would be like 1 year gaps between, responses with me. It's like it just
Sure.
wasn't
Yeah.
ready, I guess.
Yeah.
It's weird.
And there are things, there are lots of things that will come out, will become obvious, especially if you keep coming to these groups and we talk about it. Right? Things like being special. The idea that well, because we're awake, we've got something that others haven't got. That makes us special. Well, that's a bit of a joke. Yeah. Um, Things like well, if I'm so awake, how come everybody can't see that? How come I walk down the street and people don't take any notice of me? It's just like anybody else.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
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 It's pretty obvious, isn't it? I mean, but they're the things that will turn up. That kind of stuff will turn up. So as we learn to negotiate a new world on the outside, it seems like the same old world always for others. But on the inside, you'll get blown away by the spotting a rock on the road or a blade of grass with dew on it or something. You'll just get blown away by that. And nobody else will see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's funny too, like it's almost like um I guess you'd say almost like being awake as itself kind of acts as like a condition for me at least in some things to where it's like I don't know, like some of the ways I can describe it is like um I mean like resistance to things can still come up, but like it just seems like overall, you know, in a lot of certain scenarios and stuff, maybe where I would have had like anxiety or like, you know, I guess really that's why. It's like because it would be like oftentimes you'd have like anxiety, and then what accompanies it 99% of the time is always like some story that you get like really attached to. And it's like now it's like, you know,
Yeah,
the the attachment to it just doesn't hold weight in the same
yeah,
way. And so it's like I could experience anxiety in certain spots and it seems like a lot more often now it's like it's not quite as limiting to where, you know, it would previously have the effect to where it's like, oh, okay, like I'm not gonna do that. Like I want to do that, but I'm not because you got like anxiety. Whereas, you know, now there's still times where like I'll have anxiety and then it'll be accompanied by the story and like it gets recognized as a story, but I guess it also on top of that gets accompanied with, you know, I guess you'd say like the choice of like, I'll just pass it up. But but then there's but then there's not like a story that follows all three of those things of like,
mm,
oh,
mm.
that's who I am as a person kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just like
yeah,
a recognize yeah, it's just like a recognizing of like those are three things that happened and like, you know, the anxiety, the story, and then the choice to go in the opposite direction is all like, an accompaniment of each other. But then I guess like I haven't yet really experienced where, because I mean, it could be possible to like have a story after the fact of all those three things, but it just seems like that would be so much more unlikely because it wouldn't get believed to that
mm,
extent.
yeah,
So it's kind of it's kind of made it to where almost like almost like there's more confidence you would say in certain situations where like at least that's how it would like come across to others
yeah,
maybe, but just only for the fact though that like you're not you're not fully buying into like
yeah. So this is a really critical point. You heard David talking about this, and it comes up with lots and lots of people. You probably don't know what changed that you now don't buy in like you used to. What changed that you hold these stories lighter? Another way to
Why?
put it is you don't believe them in the way you once used to. But how
Yeah,
come? It
exactly.
wasn't because you told yourself not to. That doesn't do anything. You can tell yourself all day, don't believe them, but that doesn't change anything.
Right.
But
Yeah.
something in there, that's the gap. In there, if we could get that one across to people, a lot more people would wake up. You know, what is the gap that goes from you buy into a story and then after waking up you go, ha, that's just a story.
Well, I think it's because, because people will have a thought and then it'll accompany a general attachment towards the thought, but then the general attachment towards the thought doesn't get seen as being something that is
Right. So
just
how did
something
that come
that
about? How did that come about? That change from seeing it the way you used to see it to the new way.
just from like
You don't know the answer, do
from
you?
look from
Yeah.
looking, just from
Yeah,
looking.
from
Like,
asking, from looking, yeah. Well, some
yeah,
people, I've had people that have looked for a couple of years and they still can't see it.
yeah. I mean, it took me like 4.5 at least.
Yeah, well, it took me 45. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the trick. So yeah, look, hang around. I want to talk to Jayan for a moment, and then Tammy. Tammy's
Yeah.
well, but and I reckon Tammy's been relating to some of the stuff you've been saying, and you can help me with her. Yeah, when in a minute. So yeah, don't go
Okay.
away before that, eh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, Jayan. How have you been?
Hi, Vince. As we were talking about LU and guidance, I remembered I signed up with a guide in LU and we're talking for quite some time, and then they asked me to fill up that form, and I couldn't fill it up. I couldn't complete it. I had some difficulty with the answers, so I sent it back and I said, no, I don't think I'm ready. Then he said, okay, let's work, let's continue to work. And I continued to work. And it seems I was sending responses too quickly on the chat. And so he said, please slow down, take as much time as you want to look. And I didn't realize it, but I took more than a year after he asked me a question and I didn't respond. Then when I realized it, I logged back in, typed the response, and then he did not respond to me at all. Then I wrote to the admin and I said, my guide is not responding to me. Please give me another guide. And she didn't respond either.
Oh, oh, there you go.
So that was the end of it. LU. Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't, yeah.
Well, sometimes there's kind of like 20 or 30 people waiting for a guide,
Yeah, yeah.
and some of the guides are dealing with multiple people.
Mhm.
I know one guide that frequently works with half a dozen people. And I think, how the hell can that happen? Like working with one person can take a couple of hours every night. No worries
Yeah.
at all, and
Mhm.
multiply that by two people, and all of a sudden you've lost half a day. Yeah, it can be pretty big. Yeah.
Yes.
And then guides burn out too. You find that they
Mhm.
get to the
Mhm.
point where they just stop. Yeah,
Mhm.
people, and of course all the guides are continuing. So that mishearing I did earlier when I thought you were saying about seeking, right? If we change when we're a seeker, it's pretty obvious that we're seeking. Once we wake up, if we change seeking to just discovering, we're just waiting for whatever turns up and looking at it with fresh eyes. So it's a discovery when we see what it actually is. That's a good description of how it is after waking up for a lot of people. Yeah. Yeah, they do a great job, LU, and they do work with a lot of people, and of course they're not 100% success rate at all. Who knows what the success rate is, but it's going to be different for different guides, I guess. But what happens when they finish? You know, they go back into the world and go back to sleep. You know, I suspect a lot might do that. So that was my main reason for starting these groups in the first
Yeah.
place all those years ago. Let's keep this alive. And for me, I can say keeping it alive has been great, and that meant that there's a constant something happening. The constantly little shifts go on. Yeah, just because it is so alive, and we are talking about it up front. If I had no groups and I didn't go to LU and I just went back to a normal everyday life all the time, I guess you'd kind of forget about this stuff and you get sucked back into the old way if you're not careful.
Yeah, those poems are great. The the way I feel is it brings me back to this moment here and now, and take the seriousness out of it, whatever is going
Yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's good. If there's seriousness around, there's something wrong.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I recognize that. Then you have been talking about not being serious and take it as a game through your stories and poems and meetings, and so it kind of feel less serious to me, a bit more relaxation before I join the meetings or read those poems. And one more thing I realized, and it was like um, I'm not going to get anything because what I realized was I'm looking for something before the meeting. I have an agenda. I want to ask this question or that question or be this way or that way. And it came to me that I'm not going to get anything out of this because everything that talks about is about this now. So it was a bit of disappointment. Uh, at the same time, freedom that I don't have to prepare anything. I can talk about whatever I want. And
Mm. Mm.
it felt that way, kind of a bit of relaxing to be here in
Mm.
this meeting.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of camaraderie as well. Mm.
Yes. I found that I'm creating problems to present here and find a solution.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We don't need an excuse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Thank you, Jayan.
Thank you. Thank you, Vince.
Talk to me, Tammy.
Hi, Vince.
Yeah. So how was that for you?
Fun, interesting. Of course, I want to ask Ashton, how did you do it? What happened? But
Well, I did ask him what's the difference? How come you could learn to take those thoughts less seriously? And you'll have to ask him. Or reframe your
Well,
own question. What would you say would be the right question for him? Not how did you do it? That's too vague and general. How did he do what?
what did you do before waking up? How did you look at things? What was your practices? Did you take it really seriously and push into things, or just where were your thoughts? Where were your practices? Where was your attention?
I guess I'll give maybe even more backstory than what's required. So probably about somewhere like mid 2019 or something like that. I had started meditating like, but even that's like a loose term, but I was meditating like 5 minutes twice a day, kind of every day. And I did that for like maybe the better part of like a year and a half, 2 years or so. And then probably like 20, probably early 2021 or late 2020, I had read about Buddhism and stream entry and stuff. And then I think at that time, I'm trying to think like different people I might have been following. I know at some point I had landed on like mastering the core teachings of the Buddha from um like Daniel Ingram. Um and like I had seen some stuff like there's a YouTube channel called Hillside Hermitage. But and so I would kind of surround myself in that kind of sphere a little bit. Um and then I somehow found LU, and at first my guide I think was Anastasia, and I don't know, it ended up just not working out. Like I think I tried looking back just a little bit to like some of the conversations, and weirdly enough, I mean, I guess what turned me off with that was like I wasn't able to understand the term direct experience, as she would say it. Like I couldn't figure out, like it seemed like the definition was always changing to me. Like it seemed like sometimes direct experience included thought, but then other times it didn't include thought. And so like I couldn't keep track when I was like
Mm-hmm.
being guided with her. And then to be honest with you, like, well, and so then somewhere in 2021, like I was really trying to meditate quite a lot. Um,
Wait, what is
and I was,
meditate? What did you do during that time? Were you listening to stuff, guided stuff, or were you focusing on breath? Were you trying to be open to whatever appeared? Like, what was your practice?
well,
Sorry, if
so I
anything's
guess,
too personal, just
yeah,
like move on.
no,
Yeah,
you're
yeah, you're
good.
right. Yeah, keep going.
So for like those first 2 years that I was doing it, I hadn't even actually looked up what meditation was. It was just kind of what my idea was. So I thought that correct meditation was to just try and be completely thoughtless. And so that's what I was doing for like 2 years. And then once I had read about some Buddhism, you know, I heard talk about like jhanas and, vipassana and stuff like that. And so at some point I was trying to go for like the first jhana and stuff like that. And I mean, I did get to first jhana twice, but while it was like a cool, my life was weird in that point because I was still during like COVID time. So like I had attained the first jhana and then I was like, okay, like I really want to go down this path, and figured I was just going to become a monk or something like that, but I couldn't get a passport or anything during that time. There was like no travel or anything. So I was like, well, I guess like let's just throw out the spirituality entirely, because I figured like I probably wasn't going to be able to in this lifetime at that point. And so then realistically, all the way from like mid 2021 all the way up until now, I hadn't done any meditation at all. I hadn't done any spiritual practices at all, um, other than for, maybe stints of like 2 months, doing like noting practices, where you're kind of just trying to note sensations, throughout the day. Like, and and it was interesting because I would be noting stuff that almost you could say wasn't even there, to be honest. Because like I could be in the shower, because pre-awakening, it's like one of those things where you have you inevitably have thoughts about what life is supposed to look like, or what a certain practice is supposed to look like, and that it should be doing certain things. And so at that time, like I would be, say, noting in the shower, and I figured it's supposed to look a certain way where it's like droplet, 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 as if I'm noticing like a million droplets per second or something, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
so it's like I had stints of that and then ended up just kind of stopping. But then, you know, reading some of the stories from Vince helped, and then I later returned talking back to Vince. But really, really what did the change for me was I, I think personally it was helpful for me to the fact that I did do the noting practices. Like I don't deny that from my experience. But I guess if you were to say, like, for instance, like if you were to do noting, it's not it wouldn't actually be you wouldn't actually be doing it necessarily to try to evoke anything out of it. It's just that it kind of created a skill in the sense that, you know, you can see a little bit more clearly, like, okay, there's a sound, or like, okay, but really more so, I guess, in talking to Vince, what it really helped was all the things that are different than the five sensations and thought, because you can look at it as all different verbs that are happening, like talking. Like for me, like talking is just happening right now, and people might assume like that there's thought also happening. And right now in my experience, like that's not the case. Like all that's happening is just talking. But then at the same time, it's like it could be accompanied by thought, and it could be accompanied by, you know, nervousness. Like it could be accompanied by anything. But at the end of the day, it's like whatever it's accompanied by is just an accompaniment. Like it's just, you see what I'm saying? Like it's like same thing. Like you could have a thought, and maybe you might be thinking through it and be like, okay, like I'm having a thought. But then like you might also be like, I guess like you might not recognize, so to speak, that there's an attachment taking place to the thought. But the thing of the matter is like that's fine as long as you can see that it's there. Like it's not it's not about like, oh, I shouldn't have this attachment to this thought. It's just, if attachment is there, then attachment is there. Like it's just another event. It's just another thing that could be there, but at the same time, it's like, it's not like you have to look for attachment either. It's just, I guess really it's just a matter of not lying to yourself about what's being experienced is really what it comes down to. Because,
Not what?
you know, like not lying to yourself about what's being
Lying? Mm-hmm.
experienced. Yeah, lying. Like just being 100% honest exactly about what's happening in your experience. And, you know, maybe a general
I find
background
that
of
I'm
like,
very honest with myself, but I find that I suffer because of experience.
but that's fine. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, like I guess give me an example.
It feels like everything, but so just basic, I could give you some basic through lines of what happens for me, but like right now there's pain in the body probably caused by tension from stuff. There's, you know, noise outside of construction, but mainly it's my thoughts about I'm wasting my life, fears about signing my rent again, my sister next door who might be narcissistic and is very unkind, but I love her babies and I help out with them a lot. My whole life is not okay. I'm not dating. I'm not married. I don't know what to do with my career. In other words, I'm not building a life. I suffer from lack of confidence, probably complex PTSD. Like, I'm totally confused in my life. It's totally not worked out in any sense. I suffer physically and emotionally. I'm constantly in indecision. And you hear my brain now, this is me slowing down. And this is like the tip of the iceberg of what goes on here constantly. So I'm like, okay, let's try and do something with all this. Um, so I'm in a constant, you know, trying to work at it or hack at it from all, you know, things from the human level, from awareness level, from awakening level. But I'm kind of like hedging all my, in other words, I'm trying to hack away at it somewhere. It seems like I'm not getting to rest or getting to peace. And I'm not sure how to get there. And so I'm just doing everything I can kind of thing. But like there's just constant struggle, unrest, indecision, second guessing, ruminating, blah, blah, blah. Tired of my own stuff, yet it still goes on.
So I'll be honest, like all the stuff you just named, like that's all stuff that I'm almost, you could say, the same person, like same thing, like single, not dating, not married, you know, pretty much like no idea in life, career, like not even sure, hell, don't even have a job right now. But I guess like, cause you're ultimately what's happening is you're viewing it from the perspective that, like, for instance, like you could be like, you know, you feel unworthy or not unworthy, like you feel like, what was the word he used? Like something's missing or something in all these different experiences. But at the end of the day, like that's the truth. You see what I'm saying? Like that feeling like maybe you're missing out on something. If that's there, then that's what's there. Like, you know, and if it's not there, then that's not there. Um, so it's like in a lot of ways I have the same exact, literally the same exact set of physical, emotional, whatever constraints that you do as well. But it's like,
But you don't have the thoughts about them that it should be different.
but see, like sometimes that might arise, but at the end of the day, that doesn't get confounded with like at the end of the day, like if that thought arises, that's what's there, is that thought. And and if even if it gets accompanied by like, you know, thinking, oh, I need to like really change what I'm doing as like a feeling, then that's what's there, is that feeling of like, you know, oh my gosh, I need to change. Like if it happens as a feeling, then it happens as a feeling. But so
But do you go into
so like,
like panic and contraction and stuff?
see, it's not really a matter of like going into or like choosing. It's not a matter of choosing to or not to go to panic or anything. It's just a matter of like, does that happen? Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. But like, you know, just be honest with yourself. Like, if panic happens, then panic happens. If, you know, feelings of certainty or pride happen or something, then then a feeling of certainty or pride happens. It's like, it's just another node of experience that could potentially happen. It's not, you know,
But
and I think too, like another, like a good one too that I was thinking about is like clarity. Like even clarity is an event, you know? Like sometimes something might happen in your life, or like, for instance, like you might be doing, maybe you are trying to like see what's happening in your experience. And so you're trying to like pay attention to it, so to speak. But are you doing it all the time? Are you doing it 24/7? You know, like, is it actually happening all the time? Is clarity always there 24/7? And it's like you'll find that with any anything, like no matter if it's clarity or no matter if it's trying or no matter if it's hunger or no matter if it's insert any emotion or anything you can possibly think of, like, you know, it's you just have to look like it it could be there. If it is there, then it's there. It doesn't ultimately it doesn't matter if it's there or not. Um, you know, it's not a matter of getting certain things into experience. Like you can try, and if you are trying, then what is there? Trying is there, and that's fine. And even if it's
so then
accompanied
where's the
by,
peace? Where's the end of suffering then? Just being aware that this is what's happening. I'm aware that this is what's happening, but it's sucky. I don't want to suffer, right? So where's the end of that?
okay, good. So like it's sucky. So like so like this is what Vince helped really. So like is hopelessness behind it, you know? And I'm not saying that it should be there all the time whenever you see the suckiness, but like sometimes it might be accompanied by that, sometimes not.
Yeah, I think there's a general underlying drive and a fear, like a terror kind of driving me, like, oh my God, there's going to be tremendous suffering unless I figure this out. Like, and by this means like everything and life and my life and everyone's life. But yeah.
Like, well, there you go. There's your experience.
Mm-hmm. Yes, now show me
Like,
how it won't be my experience. That's the whole point.
but that's the point though. That's the point. Like if that's your experience, then that's your experience, you know? Like same thing. Like maybe sometimes I might wish for suffering to go away and it maybe miraculously, like maybe unpleasant sensations vanish. But probably more often than not, they don't. You know, it's like
So let's put it this
it
way.
can't.
What were you like before? What happened? And what is it like now?
Um,
And also, was it like an event? Like what happened to you? Like I don't.
I guess you would say. I mean, it's like I want to try and like figure out how to word this to where it wouldn't like, you know, create things that don't help. Um,
Like, was it gradual understanding or was it like a sudden boom of something? And
I see. It's like I could answer those questions, but like they don't they don't help. you know, like, but I guess to answer your question, I mean, it was a gradual peeling back layers of the onion, but the layers of the onion being that ultimately anything you can possibly think of as an event, anything, nothing is off limits. Literally everything is an event, and it can be accompanied by anything as another event that you could ever possibly come up with. But that's all it is just events. And so that's what was missing beforehand, like it wasn't understood that way. It wasn't understood that way because ultimately you would look at certain fragments of your experience and you might be able to see certain things as events, but you don't see everything as events. Every little bit is an event. Every little bit. The thought that you're having right now is an event. If an increase in, blood pressure, like in the sense of like you feel your heart pounding more is happening, that's an event. If you feel doubt, that's an event. If you feel like what the fuck is happening right now, that's an event. If you feel like something horribly has gone wrong is happening, that's an event. Like you can take this anywhere. Like literally, if you just begin labeling everything as an event and
So,
don't let don't let any stone be unturned, you know? Anything that happens beneath that stone is an event, you know?
yeah.
It if any part of your experience isn't seen as an event, then something's wrong. In the
What do you
sense
mean by
that
seen as an event? What would I be seeing it as? I'm like an event as opposed to what?
like just like that's just what's there. Like that's just something that
Taking it
happened,
personally, yeah.
So like an analogy I ended up giving Vince is like a club and there's like the door entry into a club, and it's like there's a door, like let's say I'm inside the club, so to speak. Anything can come through that door as an event. Happiness could happen. Happiness could walk through that door. I have no idea how long happiness is going to stay there at all. Happiness could leave. I have no idea when it'll come back. You know, the thought of, hey, when will this happiness return might enter the door, but I don't know how long that thought will be there. I don't know when it'll go away. I don't know what effect it's going to have on everything inside of the club, you know? And then, you know, there could be anger, you know, but that anger could be accompanied by anything else. You know what I mean?
I do,
Like
but
just
how
like a
does
real,
this not engender powerlessness and fear?
there you go. Then powerlessness and fear entered into the club. What's wrong with that? It's just something that entered the club.
See, he's not
That's it.
saying it's not about him. He's not taking it personally. He's not identified with these things. He's objectified them all. They're just events. Even this
Mm-hmm.
body is an event. And any thoughts that occur in this body is just an event. So it's not about me. As soon as we make it about me, then we're frail. We've got problems.
But
But it's not. He wasn't just saying that it's an event. He feels that there isn't a connection to him personally. It's not. He's not identified, and there's that feeling of connection. is not there. So there's a bit of an irony here, and that's something for the future maybe. But it's that we don't take anything personally. Eventually, we move through to where everything is us. So it's all personal, but not in a personal way, if you know what I mean. If you can get a bit of that.
Well, I had an experience the other day where two experiences that were very brief because mostly I've been in catastrophizing mode and like extremely panicky and between my sister and the rent and maybe having to move. Like I've just been like in hysteria, like all of the thoughts about, oh my God, I'm emotionally frail. I will not survive this. I'm going to have a mental breakdown. So in that kind of state. But
Mm-hmm.
I had two experiences where I was I don't know, someone passed by me on the street and there was no contraction. Usually I contract immediately into terror or rage, like anger, whatever, like the body immediately is protecting. But I was just like, she passed and there was no hypervigilant thing. So I was like, oh, cool. That was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Someone passed and the body didn't rise up. That was interesting. And another thing was that something did arise in me. Like, I don't know if there was a loud noise or someone said something, whatever, something triggered like an adrenaline burst in the body. But it was, I don't know, I can't explain it. It didn't affect me. I was like, oh, there arises the adrenaline. Like, I don't know, I can't explain it. It was like, oh, there it is, but it didn't take over. I don't know. So those were interesting pinpoints in the midst of a sea of craziness, fears of mental breakdown, not sleeping well till 5 in the morning, etc. Anyway, so I don't know. I guess there's a lot of visions of what awakening might be, but one of them is, I mean, of course, I would hope all of this would go away and I would just be a floating angel. But um,
Yeah.
the other one is like that, okay, when these things arise and I'm okay with it and there's not fear around it, or if there's fear, it's like, oh, there's fear, like some sort of equanimity. Even if there's no equanimity in the experience, there's equanimity about what the experience is. But I don't know, it seems like I'm 90% in the waves of, you know, panic, uh, worrying about my life, all of this. And then occasionally there's pinpoints of, um, being stepped back from it and more observational or more peace or something. But it's not been very
Yeah.
frequent in the last 3 weeks of craziness. But yeah.
Yeah. So you get that when you step back from it and observe it, you're taking a relationship to it like Ashton is describing. It's an event. Like
Yeah.
when that woman walked past you and you didn't have a reaction, that's easier to see as an event than one where you do react.
Yeah.
But what he's saying that we need to be really clear is, that these good experiences where you don't react and the other experiences where you do react, they're the same thing. They're just an event. So something Ashton said earlier that I thought was really worth digging into a bit more is saying, talking about, he didn't use the word, but I am, radical honesty, right? Radical, being honest with yourself, telling the truth about what goes on. Now, the thing is, if you tell the truth, you're going to describe, and everything else is going to be about. So it's going to be a
Mm.
story about, and it's added to. It's still there. It's still an event that's occurring, but it's added to. And then the consequences, of course, is that we spiral off into a whole lot of reactions. But telling the truth, one way to ask yourself, am I telling the truth about what's going on? Is it a description or is it a story about it, which includes, of course, what it means, etc.
Yeah, it's just about telling the truth. Like, so like if you were to write a book about a character, you know, and you had to come up with a storyline or like something about a character, ultimately you're just describing the characteristics of what's happening to that character, you know? Like like you could come up with anything you want for that character. Like what's a movie you've watched that I might know? Like I mean, have you ever seen like Den of Thieves
No,
or like Gone in 60 Seconds?
maybe. What was that about?
Like a car movie, stealing cars?
I'm
Or
not
like
sure.
do you have like any movies I might know about?
Um, movies. Um, Legally Blonde.
Yeah, I don't I don't know that.
We've got
All right.
radically
Well,
different generational views here.
I'm not
Yeah.
watching car chases. Although I did watch White Collar. That was about a guy who stole like artwork and stuff. Did you see that?
I haven't, but all right, let's go into that. So all right. All right, pretend you're gonna make a sequel of White Collar. And so there's a guy that this is kind of like Den of Thieves, to be honest. So who was the guy that like because I haven't seen it, so like give me a little bit of a background about, the guy that steals stuff.
Um, he's of course the most likable person in the series, and him and his friend, I think they move in with this old lady in New York or something, and he just goes about casing out places and pulling off really cool heists and stuff of the art. Oh, and then he gets caught by the police, and then they have him figure out other people's how it's done or something and catch the person. Like
Okay.
now he
All right.
works for them, something like that. It was a while ago,
No, no.
but yeah,
So, so he's a good baddie.
yeah.
All right. So like I'm gonna set the scene if there was like a sequel. So like let's say if that guy that cases joints, let's say if now he was talking to someone that was like a pro or like a diamond jeweler, like a diamond dealer. Like he has loads of diamonds and they just met at a restaurant and he just found that out about this guy. In that particular moment, describe me in detail some certain things that you would anticipate is going through that guy. Like what is that guy experiencing in that particular moment where they're at this restaurant and he just heard this diamond dealer say, "Yeah, I'm a diamond dealer." What's that guy experiencing in that moment?
What is the diamond dealer experiencing when he finds out the other guy is a
No, no.
thing?
No. The guy that cases joints and does the
Oh,
stealing. Like,
um,
just come up with something. What's he thinking?
he
Like,
would just be have 30,000 scenarios of how to steal what's there, how to steal his whole business. I mean, he would just be figuring out tons of strategies in his head. That's just how his mind works. And then
and
he'd
what
be able to
else?
tell the police how to protect the guy. So, yeah.
Okay, but see, I'm not asking that. Like,
Mm.
what is he actually experiencing when he's sitting down at that restaurant at the booth and the guy just told him that he's a diamond dealer? What is he experiencing right in that particular moment? Anything you can come up with. Physical,
Thoughts, tons
mental,
of thoughts.
emotions. Like, is he experiencing anything physical? Does he have confidence? Is there worry?
Maybe
Is there,
excitement and adrenaline coming online, and then tons of thoughts.
is there like anticipation? Is there, you know, um, is there planning happening in his mind? Like,
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So like those are all descriptions. Those are all events that are happening for that guy, you know? Like it's just okay, yeah, he's thoughts are happening of how he's going to case the joint, but he might also have thoughts of like uncertainty,
Right,
and he
but
might
then
have thoughts.
Buddha is not having those thoughts. He's sitting cross-legged and at peace. So how do I go from diamond stealer to Buddha? That's the whole question.
Right.
Welcome to the deep end, Ashton.
Yeah.
You've got to fix her. You've got to wake her up in one sentence. What
You
would that
said
be?
gone in 60 seconds. Let's count down. 60 seconds, I want to be gone. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is like any answer that you could possibly come up with for what that guy is experiencing, if you were to write it in a book, it's written in stone for that moment. And even if you wanted to change it, it's already been written in stone. The most that could happen is another sequel gets made, but like, like there's nothing inherently wrong with no matter which description you gave of what that guy is experiencing. If you told me that that guy was experiencing, you know, debilitating back problems and,
Let me ask you
was
something else.
wondering.
No, I hear what you're saying, but let me ask you something else. You said before that talking was happening, but no thoughts were happening necessarily, but thoughts could arise. Where are you? Are you in your head? Are you feeling the vibration of your mouth? Are you somewhere else in the room? Where are you right now? And what relationship do you have to the talking?
Some contrived sense of a you isn't arisen right now. It could as a thought, but it's not there right now, you know?
So are you observing the talking, or like where are you in all this?
But see, that doesn't matter. If no matter what the answer is, it's just an answer. No matter what answer I give, even if any single answer I could give, even if I could give 10 different answers and at 10 different times they would all be true, it doesn't matter because all it is an answer, you know?
So what does matter?
Realizing that no matter what answer is there, no matter what event is there, that's all it is. It's just an answer of what's there. It's just an event of what's there. Even if immense amount of doubt happens and you're completely doubting experience, then that's the answer. That's what's there. Again, it's just complete honesty with your experience. And even if you feel a desire, I guess you would say, to lie about your experience, that's what's honestly there. And that's fine. Like, that's what's there. But that's the honest answer, is that even if desire to lie is there, then that's what's there.
How caught up are you in your sensations, experiences, and thoughts? Are you observing them and they happen like passing lightly and you're in some kind of equanimity and they arise? Or are you totally overtaken by them, like in them?
But see, it depends. Both of those scenarios are just events. Still, even still, like I said, anything you can come up with is an event. Anything, so what you just came up with, those are all possible events still.
Mm-hmm.
So like even if even if I was like very conscious of what's happening, that's just okay. Like I'm very conscious about what's happening. But if if things are happening and I'm very unconscious about it, then okay, like that's what's happening. Same
How
thing,
is
like
this
if,
different? Sorry.
yeah, you're good.
How is this different than your experience before?
Because beforehand, like as a result of not seeing things that way as events, it innately becomes more, you know, I mean, it doesn't really matter what it would have become, but you know, I guess beforehand, like everything that happens just wasn't seen as events that would happen.
So what was it seen like? I'm trying to understand the difference because I'm
What
trying to
wasn't
understand what
seen
an
like,
event means to you. In other words, what's the difference? I'm trying to understand what an event is by understanding what it isn't. In other words, what was it like before? What was it taken as? Or how did you experience reality or
right?
your sensations or thoughts?
They were they were taken up to be something immediately personal in the sense that if so, like for example, I might be able to potentially at some points, I might be able to see three different distinct things happen. And they could all be happening at like the same time. You know, like there could be, I don't know, like there could be anger accompanied with, you know, like heat waves and stuff happening on your skin. And there could be terrible thoughts. And in the past, I would have thought that that given scenario is something that came to be because of me. Whereas now I just see it as it's just a scenario. And even if that same thing happened now, and on top of that, there was also a thought of this is me, even that now would get seen ultimately as still just another scenario. But like that you're not in control of the scenarios.
Meaning you didn't cause it
Whereas
and you can't fix it kind of thing?
ultimately, like sort of, yeah, but like there might not there might not even be that, you know, that might not be pervasive 24/7 is what I'm trying to say. Like even that is another scenario. It could be a scenario all in itself. It could be a it could be another added layer onto other things that are currently happening. Or it could just not be there at all. But in either case, there's always a scenario that's happening. There's always something there. Even if there's a lack of anything happening, that's what's there, is like nothing happening. So there's always something, but it doesn't matter ultimately what that something is. Even if, even if like you feel like, even if there's thoughts accompanying it, like, man, this should really matter. Well, okay, like that's what's happening. It's just a thought
And if
of,
you're not believing those thoughts and going by them, then what is guiding you? Like, how does your day unfold? Like, what is driving it, or you, or does your day look different than before? Or
well, but that's not necessarily true though. Like, I can still have beliefs. I can still have, ideas of what I think is right and wrong. I can still have intentions. I can still have desires, but that's all they are, is just, so like what's guiding me is just whatever is guiding me. Sometimes there's nothing guiding me. Sometimes there is desire. Sometimes there is something, sometimes there is intention, but other times there's not. Like right now, like there's really no intention at all in my experience right now. And so you could ask, like, okay, so what's guiding you? And to your point, in a sense, it doesn't matter what's guiding me, in the sense that, like, I have to know what's, it's not really a matter of knowing what's causing your present experience or what's enduring or about to happen. It's just about knowing what's happening, you know? So, like, I'm just being real right now. Like, all there is in my experience right now is talking and looking at a screen. That's it. And like, for instance, like on a technical perspective, like I'm breathing. We know I'm breathing. And right now it just came up in my reality, it just came through the door into the club that I'm breathing. And clarity accompanied that, recognition accompanied that, also came in through the door at the same time to recognize that I'm breathing. But just because the clarity of breathing exits the door, and just because you see what I'm saying, doesn't mean that breathing stops. So it's like clarity of knowing what's happening, even in and of itself,
it's not
might not be
necessary.
there. Yeah, it's not this, you know, there's no requirements. It could be there, but it might not be.
So there was
So
there was
Like,
one. I want to jump in here a bit, going back a little bit. Tammy, you asked the question: if there's just talking, where are you? And Ashton said, well, my words, I didn't arise. I didn't show up. There was no me. There was no creation of a self. There probably was to a degree when you asked the question, but when he was actually talking, there was not even any thought of him doing the talking. There was just talking happening. So this is, to me, I mean, this is why I bring it back up, because this is a great proof, if you like, that the I only exists at a story level. It only exists as a concept. It only exists in your head, and it only exists when it's triggered for some reason. But otherwise, there's no evidence of an I anywhere. But had you asked me that question later on, I mean, maybe not at the time, but I thought about it later, and I would have said, who's asking the question? Where did that question come from? And I'm imagining that if I ask you that question, you could say, well, it's an event that just happened.
mm,
So where is the I before you think about it?
So I have two things to say about that. One is that I kind of can get what you mean, I think, from like if I'm like involved in something, I'm looking at a sunset, I'm crossing the street with my nephew.
Yeah,
No, I might arise in that moment until you say to me,
absolutely.
well, is there a Tammy? And I'll be like, of course, I'm right here in my life and blah, blah, blah. But when I'm not thinking about it, I
Yes,
recognize that I'm just doing things unless I'm thinking about my life.
yes,
On the
exactly.
other
Yeah,
hand,
yep.
so I can
That's
say,
the
okay,
truth.
yeah, and I think I have that for a few seconds until my mind comes back online because as we know it is yeah. But on the other hand, underneath everything, Vince, there is this current of terror, fear, worry, wasting my life. I'm not going to solve. In other words, I think the contraction of the system is maybe it could be, PTSD or hypervigilance because of my environment or my sensitive nervous system. It could just be a biological, physiological thing, but it could be a belief in a me running in the back. I don't know. I don't know if it's just an event or physiological or if it's evidence that there's a me running in the background at all times, that fear and tension in the body. I don't know how to look at that, but
Yeah, yeah. So Ashton's suggesting that you see that fear and so on as an event that's also there. If you go looking for the connection between that and
mm-hmm.
you just you can only make up a story that's a connection, but there's no actual connection, is there?
But then what about all this stuff about going through your conditioning and your trauma work and your shadow work and stuff? In other words, it does say that the tension and the body mind is related to all these this and you have to work through it and the that. I don't know.
Could be, it could be, but it's not to say it is necessarily the case. Mhm.
It's just like I kind of get that it's all events. And yet, A, it's very, very unpleasant and scary of like, what if I have a nervous breakdown or what if I ruin my life? Like, it's scary to like not be pushing forward my life and not solving these things. And also like it's unpleasant and I do want to change it. I don't know. In other words,
Mm. Yeah. What's scary for me
and
is
Ultimately,
also
the
the
what
thoughts
if
are
story.
believed.
No,
Yeah.
ultimately, it's almost like a not willingness. Like, like you almost worry of like, oh my gosh, but if I label this fear as just an event, like, what'll happen? And so, like, you don't label it as an event, you know, just because the fear is there, or like, there's just to some level, to some degree, there's an unwillingness to label, to see certain things of your experience as an event, which that unwillingness is just another event. But, you know, if you just start kind of labeling everything as events, it'll happen on its own. So like
Mhm.
there you're just generally, I guess, which I was too, you know, preoccupied with like, well, what about this? Like, what about all this pain? What about all this suffering? What about this all this trauma? And so you end up buying into that story of the what if, and so then you don't label it as an event. But forget about it. Forget about the what if. Just label it as an event because that's what it is. So it's like, I know you're capable. I know you can do it because you obviously have. But you're only currently what's happening is you're only labeling and seeing certain fragments of your experiences as events and you're ultimately there's a refusal to see everything as an event. But once willingness arises to begin being true to yourself and being real and viewing even the super shitty parts, the super uncertain parts, the super terrible parts as just events of in and of themselves, that's where the layers of the onion really start just falling away. Like you have to commit, I mean, it's like there is a degree of commitment, so to speak. Like you just have to, because anything that I say, and then if you combat it with like, but there's this or but there's that, you went into story mode, and that's fine. Story mode still happens for me too, but
But it's just an event.
it's just an event.
I think you're kind of with a nail on the head. In other words, some of the things are labeled, this is too important to spiritualize away, or something. In other words, this is my life and this is my health and this is my, in other words, like that's off limits. This is labeled important. We're not going to label that event, because if we take the red warning sign off of it, everything is going to go to hell. We don't touch those. Those are real emergencies. And yeah, absolutely.
But you have to touch those. When they happen, you have to touch them. You have to.
I touch them all the time. I'm present. I'm honest. I can narrate it, but I'm not willing to say, "Oh, that's not important and that shouldn't be pursued." You know what I mean? Because that's my health. That's my life. That's my mental health. Like, I don't know. It seems like too important to not pursue it or something.
But see, that's not what I'm saying. I can, like, let's say for instance, like I think it's important to say go to the gym or something, or like eat a certain way. Just because, like, let's say if there was some sort of ailment and I, you know, were to um label the thought of, like, you know, worry or whatever about a certain ailment comes up, and I label that as an event. That that doesn't mean that that doesn't mean that figuring out a way to get rid of the ailment goes away. It might in that particular moment, but it might not. Like, if, like, let's say if I have athlete's foot, all right, and it's like if I want it to go away, or like, or okay, no, but like let's say if I have athlete's foot and then itching happens, and I just label it as urge to itch, kind of like in the sense of like
Let's
it's
say
just
you
an
have
event.
panic attacks and you're afraid of a mental breakdown. Like
Yeah.
something more urgent, or like your
Okay.
your sister's abusing her kid, like I don't know, something urgent that's important about people's lives or how they'll grow up, or that you'll be alone or you have no friends, like I don't know, something that's more urgent. You know what I mean? Give me an urgent.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So we'll do the panic attack one. All right. So panic attack comes up. It gets seen as an event, but it splits off into it splits off into an infinite amount of nodes that are possible, in the sense that panic attack can happen, and panic attack can also be accompanied by, you know, a desire to get the panic attack to go away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one node. And that gets labeled all as an event. And then, but there might be a panic attack that gets seen as an event, and there might not arise the desire to do anything about it. And even still, that's just an event. So it's not really a matter of, oh, if I label this as an event, then that means that I'm 100% of the time surrendering my life to whatever happens. It's like, it's deeper than that.
Yeah, you
It's
still
just
attend to events.
you're just labeling it as an event, but like, is that where life ends? Like, once you label it as an event, does life just stop? Or like, does that just remain true forever? And it's like, no, it doesn't. So like, after you label panic attack as an event, surely something else is going to happen at some point, whether that's an urge to, you know, I don't know what maybe your common remedies are for a panic attack. Like, I don't know if you meditate, I don't know if you medicate, I don't know if you go out on forums, I don't know if you know, I don't know if you go to see a therapist. What I'm trying to say is like, or maybe there's instances where you just don't do anything about it and you just feel it. But what I'm trying to say is like, those are all possibilities, and there's nothing inherently, from the perspective of labeling events as they are, from that perspective, there's nothing inherently wrong with whichever of those events happens that follows the panic attack, so long as you label it, so long as you see it as an event, you know, like I'm sure like
So
maybe
I think
panic attack.
I can't discern what the difference is from what I'm doing now, which is what am I slightly not doing? Because I'm always aware of what I'm going through and I can come back and report it or even report it as I'm going through it. What's the difference that what am I still not doing or seeing?
The story behind it.
But the story is part of the panic. It's what's driving it. In other words, oh my God, blah, blah, blah is the story that's with the panic.
Is it 100% of the time? Sometimes it might be. Sometimes story might be there during the panic attack. Sometimes it might just be sensory overload, and maybe
Yeah,
sensory
that's
overload
true.
is, you know, like is the story always there? Even if the answer was 99% of time, it's like I'm sure it's not 100%, but that's not to say that you need to get to a point where story is there 0% of the time. It's just that no matter if it happens 100, 99% of the time or 1% of the time, it's just an event still. And that's not to say I don't have any empathy. It's like, obviously I wouldn't want that to be the case either. And, but see, and it's different from indifference, because indifference assumes that there's a 24/7 way to live reality. And that's that indifference or numbness or whatever is the only way to live reality. But, you know, like, you could have a panic attack and maybe indifference accompanies it. And so it does. That's an event. But then other times panic attack might happen and feeling consumed by it is all that happens. And that's just another event. Like, basically what it comes down to is it's just an acceptance, so to speak, of there is an infinite game tree of possibilities, and that
We don't get to decide them.
some of yeah, and that some of the game tree is positive, some of it's neutral, some of it's unpleasant, but ultimately whatever happens on that game tree happens. And it didn't happen from your choice. It didn't happen from some magical constant thing that's there. It just happens. So you could say, in a sense, it's radical acceptance, and radical truth is what helps to bring about the radical acceptance. right?
So I have neither, I think. Um, what do you mean by radical truth? Because I try to be honest with myself, but I guess maybe stories still I believe them. Is that where the lack of radical truth? In other words, you would say truth is not believing the stories?
No, not at all. Truth is telling me or someone or yourself or whatever that believing in the story just happened. If that was indeed the case. If not believing in the story happened, then that's just a separate case. Both are possible.
I think I have radical truth with myself. In other words, I'm I'm constantly telling myself what's happening. In other words, I think I'm aware and narrating to myself what's happening, and I am as much as yeah. In other words, I think that's just um my nature to be open to what's happening and truthful about it. That's just something. But acceptance is not here. And me saying that is part of my radical truth, I
Yeah.
guess. That's all I can say.
Exactly. And that's the radical truth is that it's not there. But I'm not saying that anything is required to be there to awaken. I'm just saying that if the radical truth is something, even if you think an awakened person would be like, "Oh, that's not correct," and so you wanted to like not be radically truthful about it, then that is the radical truth. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like I don't know. So like yeah, it's good that you realize that acceptance isn't there, but I'm not telling you that it should be there 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
It could arise, but it might not. Same thing, like you said, like generally speaking, you might be an open person, but you could also be closed off too. What's the difference? Like it's just another event. If you're closed off, then you're closed off.
Yeah, no, I meant
If you
open with
feel
myself. In other words, admitting what's happening. In other words, seeing what's happening. But yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I know that. What I'm saying is like even if it somehow happened where
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't the case,
Mm-hmm.
then that's still fine. Like that's still just another event. Even if you weren't honest with yourself, that would just be another event.
So is life more pleasant now?
It's less difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I still experience, you know, wanting certain experiences. I still experience, shame sometimes. I still experience guilt sometimes. I still experience, you know, any hard thing that you could possibly come up with, I still experience. And sometimes it might even be more heightened than it was in the past, just because you can see it more clearly,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but that's still fine. Like even if even if the suckiness for some things got worse, that's just what it is. And again, it's not about being indifferent towards it. It's just about being truthful about it. You know,
So you haven't, yeah.
if the suckiness gets worse, then it gets worse. It's not about being indifferent towards it. As
So
a
have you find that anything has changed for the better other than in other words, you're not making them worse when they happen, but is it getting better?
well,
Like,
like I said, like
do you expect guilt and shame and pain will lessen as you deepen in this, or there's no expectation for that? You think like it's just an event and it will pass and another event will come to pass and there's no seeking for anything deeper or more than that or
okay, so this is like a good question. So So personally, like now I've begun looking at, trying to get rid of the fourth and fifth fetters, which is, desire and aversion. So like I do have, I guess what I'm trying to say is like sometimes there is the desire to have a goal to deepen the experience, so to speak, but or to really to peel back more layers of the onion, but sometimes there's not. So and then what was kind of the other part of the question?
I guess just is there an expectation or a noticing so far that, you mentioned difficult things can still arise, but it's less difficult because it's not taken personally or whatever. And there's no thought that you caused it or whatever. So there's no addition to it. But is there less of those stuff, or is there less physical
So
contraction? Is there less difficult thought? Like, is life better internally?
so for example, like you asked about like is there an expectation? So for instance, I did quite a bit of reading today about getting rid of, the fourth and fifth fetters. And so ex expectation is different a little bit now in the sense that, for example, you know, it might be a expectation, so to speak, that if you do X exercise, Y thing, it generally tends to happen at some point. So, like, there's the real world looking at it of like, generally speaking, when you do X, at some point, Y will transpire. But ultimately, if Y doesn't happen immediately, like that's not an expectation any longer. Like with reference to time, like things happening in respect to time isn't an expectation any longer. And things might be perceived to where like the possibility of it happening might happen in 1 minute, it might happen in a month from now, a year from now, or it may never happen. But
I more
I
meant
guess
like the
like
expectation of life getting easier. Like, have you seen life get easier internally? Like, do you experience more pleasant things more often or less of the unpleasant things? Or,
in a sense, maybe sometimes, but not because in the sense of like that's what's guaranteed, just in the sense that there might be the possibility where that happens a little bit, but it's not a guarantee. There's no guaranteed result other than the fact that you would recognize that there's no inherent self. That's that's the only guaranteed result of seeing no self, is just that you would see no self. Anything else beyond that is not a guarantee. It's just like if it happens, then it happens. Like if
mm,
suffering subsides to a degree, then that just happens. But the only guarantee about recognizing no self is just that no self will be recognized. Anything else that happens is just potentially icing on the cake, or it could potentially be a burning of the cake. I mean, it could be good, it could be
mm.
bad.
And that recognition happened for you. Well, you said it was like peeling back layers, and then was there one time that was finally seen, or was it just kind of a gradual thing? And was it through meditation or discussions or?
Mainly through discussion with Vince, and also just, the
I think
noting
I kind of lost
practice
you.
did help. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I think just mainly, talking with Vince on the forum. And then, also, I mean, I do personally think that the noting did help in the sense of like it made me more prepared for when I would be prompted, from Vince to look at certain things because it made it easier because now I had a certain skill set. But not to say it's a requirement that you must start noting, but it just so happened to help a little bit
And
in
what was
terms of
noting?
just, you know, noting like if a thought arises that it's just a thought, but I no
You
longer like
just
to
say to
look at it
yourself
that
thought.
way.
Mm-hmm.
That's a traditional way to do it. I personally, I don't that like I never enjoyed noting. I hated it and I didn't like it. And funny enough, I never noted that when I was doing the noting. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because I was too I was too I was too tunnel visioned. I was too tunnel visioned to recognize the fact that me not liking the noting was a possible note in and of itself. Because I was too tunnel visioned. I wasn't willing to actually note every single fragment of my experience. So you just have to be willing to look at every single part of your experience, no matter pleasant or unpleasant or neutral, as an event. And even if,
And then
like I said, like even if you, even if a feeling arises of, fuck this noting, I hate it, it's a piece of shit, I don't want to do that. If you see it as an event, then great. Like that's kind of where the real progress begins, to be honest. That's where the real progress begins, is when maybe like frustration and stuff occurs or just, but then you can actually have the, you know, you're not tunnel visioned to where you'll actually label it as an event.
so
So
let's say you start getting frustrated or whatever, you would just say, oh, that's a thought. Like, what does noting consist of? You just say, oh, that's a thought, or
just see it as an event, like
mm-hmm.
just see it as an event. It
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and
but
if a perception arises about what you just labeled as an event happens on top of it additionally, hopefully you'll be able to see that as an event as well,
Mm-hmm.
ideally. If you don't, well, I guess if you don't, then you probably wouldn't be able to recognize like the fact that you missed it as an event, unless at some point you unless at some point there's like a memory of like what happened and the fact that you missed a potential event as a event, and then you're like, oh, that was an event too. But it would be more based from memory at that point, which is still fine.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like,
And did you need to like integrate this or try and like put it into your life, or once you saw it, it just arose naturally when everything happened?
what do you mean?
I don't know, after you realize
See,
no
see,
self or something.
see, I think the thing is what you think of what'll happen as an after effect, you think of as a permanent state of being. And the fact of the matter is that it won't generate a permanent state of being, you know, like um, all that happens once you cross over is that you just carry that skill with you. But it's not like reality becomes this one state of anything, you know. It's not like it just becomes a state of bliss permanently. It's not like it becomes a state of peacefulness eternally. It's not like it becomes a state of, you know, equanimity permanently. You know, all that happens once it happens is you still have the same tools. You're just really good at noticing events. like that's honestly that's the difference between you and I. Is I'm really good at noticing events as events, and you know, you're not quite as good at that yet. But if you just notice everything as events, no matter what it is as an event, at some point, you know, you'll cross over as long as you are willing to see every single possible thing as an event. That's the only difference. That's the only difference between you and I. It's just,
It's worth looking a bit
you know,
closer too, though, at what seeing something as an event actually is, and it's not a bat. It's not a way of avoiding stuff. It's not a way of dissociating for stuff. It's not a way of bypassing. So really, for what comes to mind here is that when we say an event, we could be talking about where it comes from, the origin of it, and where it lands. So if it appears to come from us or its circumstances affecting us, and then it lands on us personally, they're the bits that get broken when we see it as an event. So seeing it as an event, well, one of the things that I would put an emphasis on is to say that events happen as a result of circumstances. Some of those circumstances might be internal, they might be in your mind, they might be what's going on inside you, but a lot of them are external. But circumstances, so that objectification is what happens when we call it an event. It stops being personal. It wasn't produced in us, by us, for us. It's circumstances that triggered it. But definitely don't use the idea of an event as a way of batting away a response to something.
Mm-hmm.
because I would say what happens when people are bypassing is an event happens and then they notice it as an event, but then they don't notice the things that follow it as an event. But if you make the effort to notice that
Things that
same
follow, like thoughts and beliefs about it.
anything, anything, anything can follow it. But yeah, you know, because like if someone were bypassing, what would end up happening is, you know, like let's say if I was struck with a panic attack, right? Someone that's bypassing, what would happen is they would see the panic attack as a event, and then like let's say if thoughts happened after or during, so to speak, the panic attack of like, I want to get out of this panic attack happened, they wouldn't label those thoughts as an event. And so they'd be bypassing because inevitably when they label the first thing as the event, but not the thought, basically when they don't label the thought and the emotions that follow it, the story, as an event, then what ends up happening is it tends to create indifference or like a fake indifference. But that's not the point. The point is okay, like panic attack occurs, okay, gets seen as an event, okay. But then if thoughts happen after the fact, that's seen as an event. If intention arises and choice arises, then that's seen as an event. But that's not to say that, oh, just because I saw choice being presented means that I shouldn't make a choice. That's not what that means. It's just that, if the idea of a choice presents itself, that's seen as an event. And then, you know, if you inevitably end up actionably making a choice and following through with it, then that gets seen as an event too. And then the actual doing of it, the partaking of the remedy that you just chose, that gets seen as an event as well. And then the ramifications of it, so like if you can feel it working, then that's an event. But if you also felt it not working, that's an event. And then if you felt that it wasn't working and then thoughts of paranoia started occurring, then that's an event. Like the rabbit hole is endless. You see what I'm saying?
So
Like,
is it also like a stepping back? In other words, when you're noting, oh, there's panic, are you trying to lessen it or not get sucked into it and or take a step back so that you're observing it? Or is there none of that? In other words,
I guess what I would say is like you don't know until you try. You see what I'm saying? Like panic attack happens, event. Whatever happens after that, I don't know what will happen, but it's just an event. So
uh,
so like if a desire to step back happens,
yeah. Trying to lessen
then that's
panic
just
attack,
an
next
event.
event. Thinking this is stupid, next event. In other words, yeah.
There you go. You're on a roll.
Hmm. So I don't need to force acceptance or seeing that there is no self or believing that these or stopping to believe that it's important to solve my life. I just have to note that I'm fully sucked into believing that I must solve my life.
All you have to do is just label events as they come up. That's it.
Hmm. And I don't have to drop any beliefs or not get sucked in as long as I'm labeling it.
If it happens, then it happens, and that's an event. You see how freeing that is? You know? It's so freeing to me. I mean, probably not where you're at right now.
Hmm.
but but like it's just
You mean to not have to take ownership of it all?
literally, yeah.
Yeah. Who's there to own anything? And can anything actually be owned?
Yeah, right, yeah.
Mm.
All
So
right,
where did
I'm going to
this
put an
thought
end to
come
this.
from? Uh, Wait, Vince, give me homework.
Yeah, we're going on for 3 hours. Yeah, that was really good. I'm so pleased Ashton was here. That I suspected that you picked up a few things there from him, and you'll come up with questions. So we'll invite him back, and you can go at him a bit more. You put him through the fire.
Mm.
Mm. But he done well. Very good. Thank you. All right, everybody.
Yeah.
I'm going to go.
Bye bye. Thank
See you
you.
later.